What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for coming back and joining me for Season 3 of the FC Kopenhagen rebuild. In today's episode, we're going to be looking at all the things that have happened in Season 3 as we are pushing forwards to try and stamp our authority on European competitions. Right then, let's get things going and kick off, as always, with the transfers that have happened in Season 3. Obviously, we are rebuilding the team and we need to keep evolving every single season. And that means we are going to have players that leave the club, as well as players that are going to come in to replace the players that have moved on. As always, the transfer window is done in two parts. So we have the first part here for the end of June. Then we're going to push forwards and show you what happened in July and August. And then, obviously, the January transfer will be attached to the end of this second part. Right then, let's kick off then in June. We can show you that leaving the club first and foremost was Mohamed Amar Dayan. He is an attacking midfielder on the left, 19 years old. He has gone to Randers, and he was the only player to leave us in the first part of the transfer window. Now, we kicked off by making big moves in the transfer market ourselves, and the first player we went and signed was Siver Mansberg. He cost £5.75 million. I think this is an absolute sound signing. 23 years old, Norwegian. He's a player who's still going to be developing, can play in a number of positions in the middle of the park, and I think he'll give us a bit of athleticism, maybe that we're missing in terms of being able to get up and down the pitch. He's 6'1" also, so he's a good height, and the money that we paid for him I think was a bit of a bargain. It was £5.75 million, rising to 6.5 from Mulder. The next player we signed was Alphonse Samsted. He is a right back or right wing back. He's Icelandic, 27 years old, so a bit more further along the line in terms of his career, and a player I think comes in really to shore us up and give us that little bit more know-how in terms of defending. He's going to slot in as the right back. You can see that he has good stamina, good pace, acceleration. His tackling could be a bit better with 10, but I suppose with the way that we want to be attacking further up the pitch, some of the other stats will fill in for his tackling. In terms of things like first touch, crossing, dribbling, they're all there, and I think again this is another bargain that we can just play until the end of the save. The next player to come in was Christian Rasmussen. He's coming in from Ajax, as you can see in his picture there. 22 years old, winger who can play on either side of the pitch. Another one with good pace, acceleration. Finishing a 7 was a little bit off-putting, shall we say. The scouts found him. When I saw 7, I thought, can we really overlook that? And then we thought, yeah, I suppose with the pace, the acceleration, the dribbling, the first touch, passing, even though he might not be the one that goes and scores 20 goals a season, if he creates 20 goals a season, it will be money well spent. So in terms of him, we paid £4.4 million from Ajax. I think that is a sound investment. The next one to come in is Jacob Rasmussen. Now, you might be able to sense that we are going for a little bit more experience in the team. If we're going to make a push towards winning a Champions League, or certainly reaching the latter stages of a Champions League, I think we're going to need those players to bring the youth along with them, and this is another one that I think he can be the rotation option. He can play in a few positions such as left back, centre back, plays a defensive midfielder too. 6'3", has good stamina, pace of 12, acceleration of 11, marking, passing, tackling is all good, and he is joining us from a bigger team in Fiorentina and only costing $235,000. The next player that come in was Albert Grumbach. He has come from... Who did he come from? He comes from Bodo Glimt. Danish, 24 years old, can play wide left, can play wide right, can also play through the centre. So again, that versatility to give him the ability to play in a few different roles. His best role is as an inverted winger, and you can see with pace of 14, acceleration of 13. He has good finishing with 11 for a winger, dribbling of 14, first touch of 14, long shots of 14. So I do think this is a player who is going to be able to hit the ground running. If we put him into the team, I think he could have a positive impact straight away. Finally, in this part of the transfer window, we signed Helmar Ekdal. He's a Swedish defender, 26 years old, played 12 times for his national team. He has good strength, he has good pace, acceleration, tackling is good. Obviously, his heading of 12, his jumping reach of 14. He's another player that I think is going to give us a slight upgrade on what we've got at the back already. And again, we're pushing on now, trying to get into the latter stages of European competition. And I think these are the kinds of players that we're going to need to try to improve everything as we go along. Going then to the second part of the transfer window, Not a lot of business happened in terms of players coming in, but let's run through the players that went out. So the first player to go out was Andreas Claesson from, he's a Danish attacking midfielder in the centre. He has gone to Esbjerg FC. He went on a free transfer. We then lost David Kochlava. He went to Shakhtar for 300,000. Got upset that he wasn't playing first team football. Amu went out on loan to AGF. Harbo left to go on a free to AIK. We lost Paul Macchiaru to Malmo. He's a Nigerian, 25 years old, £900,000. I thought that was actually quite a good deal. His contract was winding down, so we managed to get at least a bit of money for him. We lost Oscar Burr to Nordsjælland, 19-year-old goalkeeper. Would have preferred to have kept him, but again, another one that didn't want to sign a contract and was willing to move on. Camille Gabrara ended up going to Spezia. He was in a battle with Matt Ryan as to who was the starter. We couldn't guarantee him the game time that he wanted. He asked to leave the club. Weren't going to stand in his way, and he has gone to Spezia as a star player. And another player joining him there is Sebastian Hausner, one that we signed early on in the save. Didn't really work out for him. Has brilliant stats. He's 25 years old. Could still develop, but didn't really see him as a long-term thing at the back. And then, as I said, the players that we've brought in have been upgrades, certainly in terms of Ekdal. So it just made sense that if we were moving one defender out, we'd bring another defender in, and he was the one that had to move on. So the two players that joined us in this part of the window then was Emiliano Marcondes, an attacking midfielder who plays through the centre, 30 years old, so again, another more experienced player in that role just behind the striker. He's actually quietly good, under the radar kind of player. Passing of 14, flair of 17, pace is 12, acceleration of 13, corners of 12, technique, vision. It's all there. He's a good enough player. Not too sure why Bournemouth were allowing him to leave on a free transfer, but we swooped in and brought him back to Denmark, so we'll take that. And the final player to come in was Jacob Weidel Zetterstrom, 26-year-old goalkeeper. He's going to come in to provide competition now for Matt Ryan with Grabara leaving the club. I think he's got everything to go and take the position. As I said, 26 years old, so a bit younger than Ryan as well. So in the long term, he might end up with the number one shirt. £2.6 million is not a bad transfer fee at all. So we did end up spending quite a bit of money, and we have reinforced the team in the places that we were looking to reinforce. We have brought in defensive cover, got a new goalkeeper. In terms of some of the creative players that we've got in the team, we are now able to rotate, not have so much need for the first teamers just to be the first teamers. And in terms of the players that we lost, there isn't anybody really who was a standout player who had asked to move on. It was a case of kind of fringe players that were also getting upset that they couldn't get into the team and weren't being given opportunities. So no real big losses there. So considering the outlay for the players that we had brought in and the players that we had lost, was the money well spent? Of course it was. We have gone and won the league once again. Only finishing 3 points ahead of Nordsjælland this time. Wasn't too convincing, but it's hard to gauge what is convincing in this league when you've got two teams that are so far ahead of the rest of the pack. Champions League, we managed to get through to the knockout playoff round. Unfortunately came up against Manchester City, and that is difficult enough in itself. And then we won the Pokalen. We can have a look at that first. If we go into the competition, we can see that we beat Midtjylland 2-1 in the final, and that's another trophy that we can add to the cabinet. If we go into the Champions League and have a little breakdown of what happened there, so if we go into the league phase, we can see that we actually finished 18th in the league phase. We played 8 games. We won 4 of them. We drew 1. We lost 3. We had a -4 goal difference, and we got 13 points on the board. Now, obviously, that was enough to get us through to the next part. Unfortunately, we came up against Manchester City and got taught a lesson. Fortunately, we got knocked out 5-1 on aggregate. So that left us then just chasing another league title. Let's go into the Superliga and show you everything that had happened. If we go to the Stages tab first and break it down with the preliminary phase, you can see in that part we played 22, we won 15, we drew 5, lost 2 games, scored 53, only conceded 17, had a goal difference of 36 and finished on 50 points. So at that point, we were already 2 points ahead of Nordsjælland. If we go into the Championship group, we can see we ended the season with 32 played, 23 wins, 6 draws, 3 losses, 77 goals scored, 24 conceded, 53 goal difference and 75 points. And we ended up winning the league by 3 points from Nordsjælland, and we finished miles clear of Brøndby, who were only on 49 points. And Midtjylland, having themselves an indifferent season, could only get themselves 44 points. If we go back to the main screen of the competition, you can see that Cornelius was our top goal scorer with 23. He had a 7.53 average rating. Mansberg getting himself a 7.29. Samsted got 9 assists and Grombeck 8. Cornelius 6 Player of the Match awards. Ryan got 11 clean sheets. Luckily, no discipline issues this season for us. Distance covered per 90. Are we anywhere there? No, we are not. In terms of the tackles per 90... don't have any players on that list either, but we do have Christiansen, who is top of the dribbles per 90 minutes, coming in with an impressive 5.26. So all in all, an absolutely fantastic third season in the books, and as you can see, we have ended up with 2 trophies. We did get to that knockout phase of the Champions League, which is obviously where we need to be. The board want us to just get through the league phase and then just to be as competitive as we can, and I think that it's another stepping stone in the direction that we want to go. Hopefully we can continue to build for the future. And then in season 4, if we get the right faces in, I think we could go even further in that competition. Speaking of us getting the right faces in, we're going to need money to do that. And the important thing here is that the board are being quite generous with the transfer budget. So we have £66.3 million in the bank, and we have 20.7 million to go out and reinforce the squad. Now, obviously, in terms of the league, we are still winning that, so it's not really there that we need to look. Maybe we need to go out and get those slightly more high-profile players and bring in some faces that are going to help us progress in the Champions League. Maybe that's exactly where we need to focus that £20 million we've got to spend. In terms of the wage budget, we now have 712,000 in the wage budget. We are spending 643, so there is a good gap there of around £60,000 that we can go out and we can try and get the right types of player in. As I said, I think it's going to be more experienced players as we go forwards. In terms of financial fair play, we have no problems in terms of the Champions League. Let's have a little look at the club vision tab then. Our job security at the top of the screen says secure, and that is a good thing. Winning the league and the Pokerland double is the bare minimum that we want, and that kind of will factor into what happens on this screen. Actionable objectives: work within the wage budget, we're on course. Grow the club's reputation, they are pleased. Spend the original transfer budget, very pleased. Minimum 2-year contracts for first team players. Now this one is actually more difficult than it sounds. A lot of our first team players actually want like 18-month deals where they'll sign from the summer of 1 year until the December of the next year. So it's kind of an 18-month deal rather than a 2-year deal. But 9 times out of 10 you can negotiate with them to get the full 2 years. And yeah, we can hit that one, but it's just bizarre. In terms of the 5-year plan, they want us to be competitive in the Champions League and win the Superliga for next season. So the Superliga is the bare minimum that we would look to do anyway. In terms of the board feedback, we get a B. To summarise, the board are pleased with the leadership of the team and last season's successes remain fresh in the memories during this appraisal. So in terms of the board cultures, they want us to sign players under the age of 23 for the first team. Now that is becoming more and more difficult, as you would have seen already in this season's transfers. We are starting to eke towards that experienced player just to give us an edge in the Champions League and to try and push us forward and to hopefully not stall out in terms of where we are as a team. I think we need to go and sign a few more high reputation players to maybe just give us that final push. They don't want to sign players over the age of 30, so yeah, it's going to be one of those where we have to finally balance the players that we bring in. They're delighted with it currently, but if we go just over 30, hopefully that won't penalise us too much. In terms of the highlights, pleased with the 2-0 victory against Brøndby, delighted with the atmosphere in the changing room, pleased with the 2-1 final triumph against Midtjylland, and then criticisms, concerned about a 2-1 defeat to Nordsjælland. So even though we won the league, they're still concerned that we lost to Nordsjælland. In terms of the supporters, you can see we have got to be there. In their supporter culture now, they want us to sign high reputation players, so that ties in with what I've just said. Maybe we have to go out and look at some international players, maybe try and sign one or two of the high profile Danish players, maybe the ones that aren't getting played in other leagues and that we can bring them home, or players that we can steal from littler clubs. I don't know how that's exactly going to work, but I think we can achieve that if we could get one or two decent players in. They want to maintain the club's reputation as being the most reputable team in Denmark, finish above Brøndby in the league, finish above Midtjylland in the league, and win the Superliga at a minimum. Notable highlights from the fans: pleased with the 2-0 victory against Brøndby, delighted with Cornelius' recent performances, pleased with the 3-2 Superliga Championship Group victory over Brøndby. The disappointment is losing to Nordsjælland in the same game that the board were disappointed in. So everything's pointing in the right direction to us doing a good job, and I think given the right guidance going forwards and getting those right faces in to pack the team out with the kind of players that both the board and the fans want, we can really have a good crack in Europe next season. So with all that out the way, that brings us nicely on to our best 11 for Season 3. Obviously, two different versions of this screen. We're starting off with the Scout Report Best 11, as you can see in the top left-hand corner. And it says that our best 11 actually is Zetterstrom in goal, Christiansen, Rasmussen, Ekdal and Samsted, Grombeck, Mansverk in the middle, Braithwaite on the left, Clayson and Brun Larsen on the right, and then Cornelius at the top of the pitch. I would agree with that. The only change I might make is to put Bargi in instead of Brun Larsen. I just think that he's a slightly better player and one with more potential that maybe deserves the game time over Brun Larsen. The rest of the team, Grombeck maybe for Johansson, but other than that, it's pretty much as it is, and that goalkeeper situation just keeps changing back and forth. I think it's a case where we can rotate goalkeepers and have equal abilities. If we go to the other version of the best 11, so we can see that that's got Zetterstrom, Christiansen, Rasmussen, Ekdal, Samsted, Sorensen and Mansverk in the middle, but Johansson is on the screen at least. Then this version has Brun Larsen on the left, Clayson and Grombeck on the right, with Braithwaite being the striker. If we look at the players in purple, Alvarsson in goal, Råsted, Nielsen, Pedersen and Gellert, Johansson and Jensen in the middle with Froholt, Nielsen and Bargi on the right, and then Christian Rasmussen up top. So it's just showing us that the youth that we have bought has really started to come through now, and they're starting to push forward. The likes of Rasmussen, Johansson still being there, Bargi on the right hand side, Froholt, Pedersen at the back, Jella, they're really starting to come to the fore now. And I think that also, alongside going out and signing maybe some older, more higher reputation players, we also can look to that crop of youth coming through to really try and drive the club forwards. Right then, that is pretty much all of Season 3 covered. It's been a good wrap up, it's been a good season, and if you're still at this point of the video with me, still listening to me, firstly, a big thank you. Secondly, if you don't mind hitting that like and subscribe button, I really would appreciate it. It's been fantastic watching the support come in for the channel across the past couple of months. I really cannot thank you enough. It really is so overwhelming to see everybody coming, liking, leaving comments, subscribing. It's been so fantastic. Thank you once again. Before you go, don't forget there are other things on the channel. We have tactic tests, we have Wonder Kids, we have tips, hints, tutorials, a little bit of something for everybody right on the channel. But for this one, Season 3 is a wrap. I'll see you for Season 4 very soon.